Greetings and welcome back to yet another episode of the Daily Run, and today we're playing as Azazel. So it's another Monday, another hard daily, and we're going to Mom's Foot. Mom's Foot is always a bit of a double-edged sword. I'm kinda excited when I see it because it's like maybe this is gonna be short daily, but then again it never turned out to be that way. Usually there's always some breaking involved, either you break for swag or you break by going just further in stages, and obviously that's gonna take some time, and it always turns into like a 40-minute run, which is, there's nothing wrong with that, of course. It's just like sometimes I feel like a 20-minute run would be very, I would say, welcome, just because it's a nice way to blow off some steam. But still, we did persevere, we did try to the end, and because we're Azazel, I wasn't really too worried about it, although I would say that this run was a very bad set of circumstances for me, and I think mostly bad play, nothing else, right? Just as Azazel, I feel like it's always gonna be difficult, and just depending on maybe what your weak points are, like for me it's Curse of the Darkness, I just can't see anything. And when you combine that with Boss Rush, and the champion version of Boss Rush at that, I just end up being in a really uncomfortable spot where I'll get hit more than the average person will. And I think I got hit in total like 10 times, maybe 12, something like that. So basically I took a lot of really dumb damage, and because there really wasn't a way for me to restore any health beyond that point, I was just stuck in a very weird loop where I felt like I was doing really badly. But obviously besides Boss Rush, I didn't play that bad, it was just maybe that one bad instance just because of the Curse of Darkness, but still, it does kind of leave a sour taste in your mouth. But still, as we were progressing through the daily, there were a few interesting decisions to be made, and at a certain point, of course, the breaking did come. We found the blank card and the A was drawn. And of course that allowed us then to go forward and just get a lot more points that way. And to some extent, on a Mom's Foot daily, even if you've been playing badly like I have today, just finding that seam or just finding a way to go forward is usually going to be enough to get more points, which is obviously not very competitive because it doesn't really represent skill, it mostly represents luck, but still it does feel nice to know that sometimes you can screw up and still manage to actually end up getting a good score. Obviously it's not going to be something that you're going to look on a day-to-day basis, but maybe in the average case it's going to turn out to be that even if you do this, maybe if you don't play that well, you can still end up getting a pretty good rank, just maybe to feel a little bit better about yourself. I feel like that's something that a lot of people miss, even if you're maybe not as good at the game. If you just kind of keep playing and try to play every single day, eventually you're gonna get a lucky break, you're gonna find something that no other player will find, and you're gonna end up ranking really well. I would go as far as saying that it's very possible that you go and get rank 1 if you just kind of persist at it for long enough. Obviously I don't expect that to be true for everyone. I still think, maybe some players are just bad players and they might not know about the strategies, but if you know about the daily minutia, maybe know how to tackle them, and maybe usually the only problem is execution or maybe time or something like that, you're just bound to get a lucky break sometimes and you're just gonna get that good score. So maybe besides that, and maybe that's how I approach this run. That's a very good point. It wasn't so much about just getting a good score, I wasn't so much about perfect play on this one, because if I was, I think I would have done a few things differently. Like in this case, I would have took the Book of Belial to the boss room, because if you just hold the book, it's going to increase the chance of actually getting the devil deal, and obviously, even if it's just a 3% chance, there's no reason to do it, because we want to get there. The other one is also I didn't play as fast as I possibly could, and I didn't use the Ivy bag to greatest possible effect, just to try to get as much swag as bonus as possible. And that sometimes it just happens. I feel like sometimes I'm in a mood to kind of min-max, sometimes I'm really not, sometimes I just want to get through the daily. And whenever there's a strong daily, like just in general, Azazel will generally be just a strong run. I feel like I kind of focus on other aspects a little bit more, just like not trying to take as much damage. And of course it went pretty well up until this point, and then it's just, like I said before, it just kind of crashed down. So maybe looking back on it, I should have taken a bit more time, but in other aspect, I was also kind of slow, and maybe that's the reason why I kind of rushed and maybe didn't take the time to break the game and try to maybe get a little bit more points that I possibly could have. But of course, as I said before, everything does go wrong on this particular floor. The Curse of Darkness for me is like kryptonite. I just don't know what's going on. I can't see most of the enemies, especially little spiders. And with the champion version of Boss Rush, I feel like there are a lot of enemies which charge at you that they're just very fast, and you need to kind of predict where they're going to go if you want to dodge them. Usually it's a good idea to dodge in a parallel direction, but when there's two enemies kind of shooting at the same time, that can be quite difficult. And I tried to get to it, of course, as soon as possible. The floor was unnaturally huge because, of course, it is hard mode, and I managed to actually come into it like just in the last second. And I don't know if that was a blessing or a curse. Obviously, to some extent, it's good because we got a lot more points than if just we didn't go there. But at the same time, just having to endure that was definitely one one of the most unpleasant experiences of this run. But luckily, once we got past that point, I got a blank card at a certain point. I got the Awa's Rune, so I just started kind of popping that to try to get a little bit further. And from this point on, it's basically free cruising. What we're really looking for is just some Spirit Hearts so we can actually take a Sacrifice Room if we do find it, but maybe a bit unfortunately, there just weren't many opportunities to get that. And there were even, I would say, some nasty rooms. Like the Brimstone Eyes, those are annoying. I just don't really know how to dodge them. I should probably go in solo player and single player and just try to maybe figure out a strategy, but I feel like if you don't kill them in the first shot before they shot you the first time, there's really no way to go, because if you dodge the first one, the other one is gonna hit you because you really have no room to maneuver there. And just because the Brimstone laser is so persistent, it stays on the screen for like a few seconds, there's no way for you to dodge optimally unless maybe you just get a little bit lucky or just start doing crazy things. The problem with Azazel is obviously you want to stay close to the enemy so you can actually hit them, but at the same time, if you stay close to the enemy in this scenario, the likelihood of you getting hit is actually gonna be increased, because the other laser on the other side is gonna have a much less of an angle to actually hit you at. So ideally, you would be like in the middle of the room, so both lasers are actually the same distance from you, and the angle is kind of like optimal for you to dodge. But obviously, in the case of Azazel, that's not really something that's, I would say, that's feasible, so you just kind of have to go close to another one. And if you manage to miss, I don't think there's really any way out of it, unless just playing a bit better and hitting it that first shot, because you are gonna take damage, and that's just, inevitable. But maybe that was a bit, I would say, pessimistic in some regard, and maybe I'm just a bit salty because I really don't know how to tackle them. But as the run goes on, because we had the Sackhead or Sackboy, whatever it's called, I was kind of looking forward to getting maybe some good runes or cards. I was maybe hoping for something like a Hero Font card that would allow me, of course, to get some Spirit Hearts, or maybe even the Strength Heart would allow me to maybe get some more health I can use in the Sacrifice Room, but nothing like that really came up, and that was a bit of a bummer. Like, even if I just got a Judgment card or any way to really get more consumables, and I think there was, admittedly or fairly, there was the one that spawns an arcade machine, and I could have used that obviously and then just blew them up to get maybe a bit more consumables, but it wasn't really one of those things which I really needed. Even if it just got like a Judgment card, a Purcher Rune, a Yara Rune would have been really good, an Algis, basically anything like that. It would just allow me not only to feel much safer, but also it would allow me to take some of those opportunities which I wouldn't be able to take otherwise. And of course, as is my luck, it's just bound to happen sometimes, there is a Sacrifice Room on Shoal, and I can't take it because I don't have enough health, and I don't think I get enough health just as I actually go through the floor. Maybe it might have been possible if I didn't take so much damage. I think I would have been in a pretty good spot, but I think overall, even if I do start taking, even if I only have 12 hearts, the chances of me actually getting to the Dark Room are not that high, and the fact is I can still take a hit of damage in the Dark Room and die there, and that's obviously not gonna be ideal, because you want to get that land bonus in general if you're trying to teleport to that particular stage, but nothing really came apart, and I just really wasn't able to do it, so I guess talking about it doesn't really make sense in this particular one, but I was wishing with the Sex that eventually I would get something good. At a certain point, I even debated if I should take my Temperance card into Boss Rush and just spawn a bunch of Blood Bank machines. Of course, then I could play them and hope that maybe one of the Sex would give me something that would allow me to teleport out. And of course, if that would happen, then I could go back to take the Evil's Rune and explore the rest of the floor. And that would have been a bit riskier, but it is something I've tried not too long ago, and it didn't really pan out to be the best choice. So I decided to go with the Evil's Rune, just try to be a little bit safe. And like I said before, it was just about trying to get as far as possible. I wasn't too worried about damage. I felt like it was kind of inevitable. You can see me running into the Leech here, which is obviously not ideal, but we did finish the run, we did survive, and sometimes that's all that really matters. With the item penalty of 250, which is quite low, that is offset by the fact we have a 6,000 damage penalty, which is one of the highest I've had in a pretty long time, but we still managed to rank in the top 30. Obviously not the best idea, not the best, I would say, opportunity cost for our time, but the run was relatively quick. We did get to the end and like I said before, so sometimes that's all I really look forward to. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed this one, guys, and I hope to see you next time.